Hey, record loving friends, this is Brian from Tokyo Record Style. I just got hit with some inspiration for something to share. It's a little bit of a continuation of what I was talking about on my last video, which was featuring my hometown hero, Leon Russell. What I want to do is talk about the spirit of the music that I want to spotlight on this channel, that I want to celebrate and uncover through this project. And I thought I would talk about that kind of music by starting out with a little story, a formative experience from my youth. I've said I'm from Oklahoma, I'm from Tulsa, and I moved to Colorado when I was 18 years old. And I had been going to Colorado for vacations as a kid growing up, and I was really excited about the prospects of living there, going to school there, and living a little bit of the ski bum life. So the first stop when I got to Colorado was a snowboard shop. And I went into the snowboard shop and I didn't really know what I was going for. And I didn't know if I needed a long snowboard or a short snowboard or a wide one or a thin one. And this was in the days where, snowboard technology was not that advanced and there was no internet and you couldn't just check these things out. So I went in there and the clerk, who probably wasn't much older than me, somehow laughed me out of the store basically, and made me feel really discouraged and embarrassed, and that I wasn't worthy of owning a snowboard essentially. And I walked out of there so disappointed, and I vowed in that moment that whatever I did in my life, I would make an environment where everybody was welcome, where there were no, silly questions, and that nobody needs to feel embarrassed about being a beginner. So that's really the spirit of this video. That's the spirit of this project. I don't know half the things that I'm photographing, and I just openly admit it. So people kind of, they're into deep house or, avant-garde or, whatever it is that they're into. And I just kind of quickly admit that my, music tastes are very basic. And I often I often say Leon or Elton John. Interestingly, it seems to be the most vanilla flavored, radio pop. The easiest way to express that my taste is basic is by saying Elton John. Now, I'm not a particularly big Elton John fan. I do have I have quite a lot of Elton John records because they're great. But that's sort of the spirit of this video. So what I thought I would do is I would go through a few records that I've gotten in the last couple months. A little bit. These are all guilty pleasures. These are records that I wouldn't necessarily be. I mean, unless I was, if maybe 2 decades younger, I wouldn't be caught dead with these records on my shelf. But that's just silly. That's absolutely just silly. So I could probably pull out 100 of these, but I just pulled out, I don't know, half a dozen or so, and I wanted to touch on a few of them and just sort of show you all my cards and, make you feel like that, all tastes are welcome here. So the first one was this record I mentioned again because I kind of glossed over it in the last video. I said, oh, I got a Best of Leon record because it was too cheap to pass up. Well, it was too cheap to pass up, but it was also, I wanted to add it to my collection. I mean, I love Leon, and there was some songs on here that I didn't have on other records. And yes, there's so much to be said about the concept of an album and, the tracking that the artist selects and, taking it out of its context to make one of these best of records, which are sometimes, contractual obligations by the label, by the artist for the label or whatever. But, no shame in having a best of record, especially of an artist that you really like. And look how killer this cover is. I mean, it's got this cool 70s, and I quite like that artwork. So no shame. Best of Leon. It might even be a weird bootleg, or it might non-canon, issued in 72, 75, 76. It's probably trade, it's just one of these generic best of, but no shame in the best of. There's the one I was talking about yesterday. Again, great record, Leon and Elton John. So there you go, Double Trouble. The Union. Another one that I thought I'd just pull out, I didn't grow up with the Monkees, but they were like on reruns. Maybe they're even their like second run of reruns when I was a kid. They were on Nickelodeon or whatever. And, you know, I found this, you know, Monkees compilation Golden Story. You know, at probably some recycle shop, and it was probably $3, and it had the Obi on it, and, you know, it's got, you know, hey, hey, we're the Monkees, last train to Clarksville, and, you know, Daydream Believer, and it's got all the hits, and I'm not going to buy, I don't even know if the Monkees have albums, you know, do they not only, maybe they only have greatest hits, maybe they only have singles, I don't know, but I just wanted to kill like 8 birds with one stone with, well, I don't want to kill any birds, but you know what I'm saying. I just thought I would get the golden story of the Monkees, so no shame. And I mean, look at those cuties. They're like, aren't they great? I mean, really, heartthrob Davy Jones. Okay, the Monkees. Okay, so this one, I mean, I don't know if I should be embarrassed about this one, but I just scored this the other day. I have to kind of make it big. Wham! Look at these guys, Andrew and George Michael. I wish I could remember George's real name. This is kind of an interesting record because you flip it this way. It's the backside is upside down. But you know, I was in the book off the other day, and this was like $1. I think this was in the dollar bin. And you know, okay, so I didn't, like, Wham is like before me even, you know, I did have like Faith, George Michael, when he broke off by himself, like Faith was all over the radio. It was alongside like Michael Jackson and Madonna, and it was, you know, he was huge. But Wham, I was 13 years old, 12 years old with and I mean, it was on the radio. But the reason I picked this up was because I watched a documentary, like a Netflix documentary a month ago about Wham. Like I couldn't resist, and I watched it. It's so good. And George Michael actually, like, it's a shame that like him and this next artist I'm going to feature too, I mean, I got these both the same day. I mean, come on. Karma Chameleon, Church of the Poison Mind, Culture Club, Boy George. I mean, I was like $5 or $2 or whatever it was. Like, I could not resist having both of these records. These are both soundtracks from my youth. And look what an icon he is, Boy George. Look at this picture. And I mean, the music's really cool. And like, nobody's going to deny that it's like, you know, chart-topping bubblegum, you know, pop. But like, it's kind of, it went into a void. It went into a 20-year void where it was like supremely uncool. And yes, I'm sure it's cool again now. But you know, every time I hear like this sound, the sound of these records, it really takes me back. I should mention the AV Club. The AV Club is like an online blog magazine, and they have this project where they list up 20 songs, and they let modern art, 20 classic hits from the 70s or 80s or whatever, and then they invite artists into this little circle studio, and they have the artist select a song, and once the song is selected, you know, it's no longer available for the other artists to pick, and they pick these silly songs that had this kind of corny, you know, 80s production or whatever, and then they redo them. And Iron and Wine does a version of what is it? It's not Kissing a Fool. It might be Kissing a Fool. Yes, George Michael's Kissing a Fool. Oh, it's one of George Michael's songs off of Faith, I think. I'm not sure if that's the one, but he says, the singer from Iron and Wine says, you know, like it's a great tune buried under that slick 80s production. And I think a lot of these songs actually are. These kids had so much charisma. I think it's funny to call them kids now because, you know, but they've aged well, actually. Like now, like Boy George is like out there, and he's like cool, and he's like, you know, and sadly we lost George Michael a few years ago. So no shame in the 80s pappy crap. At least for me, I'm over feeling embarrassed about this kind of thing. And so here's another one. Now this is a No Shame in the Compilation. I don't even know what this is. Original Jamaica, Volume 3, Various Artists. Okay, so any record, audio maniac will tell you that there's heaps and heaps and heaps of great compilations out there, but the compilation's kind of like something you tend to avoid. Like psychologically, you want to avoid the compilation, but you can find so many songs on compilations that you can't find on the original albums. And this one was as a Studio One compilation, and it's got like 14 different artists. From the Heptones to Alton Ellis, Paragons, Ethiopians. And I mean, like, every song is like a gateway to a whole nother discography. So compilation albums are great opportunities to learn about lots of different music. So, and they're usually they can be found for relatively cheap, and maybe they're not, original high quality recordings, or maybe they are, I don't really know what the general thought by audiophiles is about, if they're recorded from master tapes and they're good or whatever. But I mean, it's a great way to discover a wide breadth of music. I have like 20 or 30 Zappa albums. I'm a huge Zappa head, and the first Zappa record that I ever got was called Strictly Commercial. Ironically, it's quite appropriately named. It was like a compilation from Ryko, shortly after he died, maybe 95 or something like that. And every song, it's got like, 2 CDs, and every song on it was from a different record. And I had no idea that, Zappa went that deep. And it was like every song that I, was a reflection of that particular album. And it was a killer way to go learn about his discography. So No Shame in the Compilation. Next one, here's 2 other guilty pleasures. Now, I have my rock and roll friends, my jazz friends who will throw their nose up at disco. But I scored these records for another 500 yen score between the 2 of them. Like this one was $3 and this one was like $2. Now, this is like, what was it? What was the album I had a moment ago? It was the Wham record. It has all the songs. Like I was like, this probably just has like Careless Whisper or like one. It's got all the Wham songs that you know. This one too has like, Dancing Queen, Tiger, no, Money Money. What was the other one? I can't see it. But I mean, like, I'm not gonna listen to this at home, but I'm gonna take this to a set and I'm gonna throw on Dancing Queen right at the right moment, and the party's gonna go crazy. And same for this one. I'm gonna throw on, Staying Alive, some Bee Gees tune, or, Kool and the Gang. And I mean, you can't, to be honest, I'll admit, I've never seen this movie before, but I feel like I have after I've looked at this giant gatefold. I know you guys love, some of you have, remember this movie from your youth. This was slightly before my time. But there's young John Travolta, who, to me is Vincent Vega, as Tarantino brought him back. But hey, I say no shame in disco, no shame in any genre. All genres welcome, including, 70s disco. People acclaim, people claim that, All Things Must Pass is the best solo Beatles record, and, Band on the Run, Paul McCartney. But I'd argue Ringo's self-titled album, Ringo. This album is, okay, maybe it doesn't rival those 2 records or, any of the John Lennon records, but this album, I don't know, it shreds pretty hard. And, you may think Ringo is sort of the campiest of the Beatles, but Ringo is killer. Ringo songs are awesome. Oh My, this is a killer song. I'm the Greatest. It's like Muhammad Ali. And everybody plays on this record. Basically, this is the Beatles. Essentially, this is the Beatles plus everybody else. I think a bunch of people played on this record. But this is the Obi. I got this one with the Obi because it was like too cheap to pass up. And I had already bought another one for like, next to nothing. And so I have two of these. So this is another record that I'm going to be giving away. And this is like a great record to get as a freebie. I don't know when I'm going to do this. And speaking of freebies, while I was looking for these records, I found another one, another double that I'm going to get to give away one of these. And this is not, I'm not ashamed at all to have this in my, not at all ashamed to have these records in my collection. This is Little Feat's Waiting for Columbus. These two are killer records. Lowell George is one of my all-time musical heroes, but yeah, they were close to the Ringo records, so, or the Ringo records made me think about it. Another one, like country. I grew up with like bad country. And okay, fine, Willie Nelson's not really considered bad country, I realize, but I'm just tired of hating on country, even like bad country. Or like bad, country pop. I don't know all the subgenres of country, but I'm sure there's some name for the, stadium country or whatever, which I don't know. Maybe I'll go back and visit that genre at some point. But I just used Willie here as an example to throw out my country records. I mean, this is a killer record. This is Always on My Mind. Stardust is a killer one. Well, I think I have a couple Willie records, but this one's quite cool because it's the Japanese version. Willie's big in Japan. Man, what a legend, Willie Nelson. Okay. Boy, now I'm actually getting embarrassed. This is a band that's been getting a lot of hate lately. This is a newish band called Goose. This is like a band that's coming up behind Phish, who is like came up behind the Grateful Dead, which these bands really have nothing to do with each other, but they're sort of, we all want to assign them some, idea of who they are in our mind. And there's this like metaphorical torch that's getting passed to this band Goose. And this is their album Dripfield. I'm not sure that's going to come in, but this is like a lot of shades have been thrown at this record, but I really, really like this record a lot. It's got some really cool just soundscapes and really great songs and some amazing playing. The record's really nice. It's got a killer book inside with big images. I love the artwork. It's really interesting. But they're getting called out for, I don't know, being derivative or whatever people like to say that, when they want to be snobs and hate on bands. But I think these guys are really going for it. And they kind of, they remind me of my music communities back in Boulder and in Tulsa. And I think they deserve a chance. I think they deserve a chance. And this is where it gets really embarrassing, is that I have two of these too. I think I've got one from Amazon, and it had a big ding in it. And I wrote them and I was like, guys, it's got a big ding in it. Come on now. And they were like, oh, keep it and we'll send you another one. So there's another one that I'm going to give away. I got a big giveaway coming up. So we're going to have like a campaign to follow and share to make yourself eligible for one of these giveaways. And my final record here is the ultimate embarrassing guilty pleasure. And that is Phish's Lawn Boy. Now, Phish has since re-released all their records on vinyl, but there was a spell where they only had one record, and it was Lawn Boy. And this was pressed in the 90s on this label called Go-Go Records. And it wants to follow my face. And I actually found this in the P's at Amoeba Records. I was in the Amoeba probably around 2000. Just going through the P's. I found this and went, oh my gosh, I love Phish. Oh my gosh. And like I walked out, I think I paid $13 for it. I think I paid $13 for this. And this record is the most expensive record in my collection. I think it's worth $1,000, and I paid $13 for it. So, ha ha ha, who's the joke on now? Okay, so no shame. I'm out of the Phish closet. I love this band Phish. I'm not gonna get into. I'll do a video someday about my professing my love for Phish and why I do think they will get their dues someday, but no comment, I guess. Okay, so that is a little bit of some guilty pleasures for you, just to wear my heart on my sleeve, to show you all my cards, just to make you understand that this really is an open environment for anybody to come and be a part of, share whatever you like, say whatever you want about music. We really love it all, and no shame, and whatever floats your boat or whatever you like. And I think if you're somebody who is like me and who just loves music, this will be a fun chance for you to expand your horizons, maybe listen to something that you wouldn't otherwise listen to. That's really the most interesting and fun aspect of this project, is that I wish I'd started it 10 years ago. I wish I'd started at 50. I wish I'd started it 20 years ago, because I would have gained so much more perspective about so many different bands. I'm learning so much every day about music by photographing what you guys are picking up on the street. So, okay, I'll sign off there and say thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye.